Good afternoon. It probably is not too far from the truth to say this, that it was easier for the first disciples after the resurrection not to believe than to believe in the resurrection. When you read through the resurrection accounts in John's Gospel or in the other Gospels, Matthew, Mark, or Luke, you discover that no two people come to faith in the resurrection in exactly the same way. They all have their own stories, the way you do and I do. Each person is approached by Jesus differently, and each person faces his or her own obstacles when it comes to believing in the resurrection. Just look at Peter, Mary Magdalene, the disciples on the road to Emmaus. But in each case, Jesus goes to them. Jesus makes the first move. He initiates. For some people, believing happens with just a little effort, as was the case with John. He comes to the tomb, he sees the tomb is empty, and he believes. Though at that time, even he did not fully understand what happened. Others are much more skeptical. They have questions, and it takes longer for them to come to faith. Overall, there is a lot of confusion in the stories of the resurrection. In part because, no one was expecting it. It must have sounded like, he is alive, must have sounded like it's impossible. Nobody was expecting it. No one could have imagined it. No one could have dreamt that it would end that way. And to me, this is one of the proofs that it really happened. That resurrection is not a made-up story. Because you cannot make something up if you don't even see it as an option. It's not possible. So to me, this is the clearest proof that resurrection was real. Because nobody was expecting it. It came as a surprise. They couldn't make it up. Now, in today's gospel, we see the struggle to believe on display. Thomas was not with the disciples when Jesus appeared to them in the upper room. He is probably disappointed. He wants a proof. And he says, unless I see the mark of nails in his hands, and put my finger into the nail marks, and put my hand into his side, I will not believe. Now, who can blame him? He wants a proof. But what is even more fascinating is this. Jesus, in the end, gives him exactly what he needs in order to believe. He says, touch my wounds and believe. You see, God wants to give each of us the gift of faith. And faith is a gift. But we all have different trajectories and paths. Like the disciples after the resurrection. We all have our own stories, and no one is the same. The disciples come to believe, and it takes time. It is different for each and every one of them. No one comes to faith in exactly the same way. And it is so important for all of us to simply remember that. No one comes to faith in exactly the same way. Some of our paths are short, others have longer paths. For some, it is a whole lifelong journey. Some of us come to faith faster, some of us not. Some of us face greater obstacles than others. No one's journey to faith is a photocopy of someone else's journey of faith. Peter is not Thomas. Thomas is not Peter. And for this reason, I think it's always tricky and challenging to judge anyone else's faith. Or to judge and compare my faith to someone else's faith. We are all different. It may be tempting to judge Thomas. Why do you need a proof? But notice, Jesus does not judge Thomas at all. He gives him exactly what he needs. He approaches him with love and patience and compassion. Thomas's road to faith is his and no one else's. How Jesus approaches his disciples after the resurrection is powerful. He understands they are all different. They have different personalities, different abilities. They all have different needs. And so knowing that, he listens to them. He talks to them. He attends to their needs. Jesus knows that it's not easy for them to understand and figure out what just happened. And he does not hold that against them. He knows that their questions are real, their doubts are real, that it is not easy to believe. He does not compare one disciple to another. He does not say to Thomas, "Oh, I wish your faith was like that of Peter, or Mary, or John." He treats them all as individuals. And I find this very encouraging. I find this very encouraging. For this is how Jesus approaches each and every one of us along the journey of our faith. And we are all different. He approaches us the same way, with love and compassion and understanding. And above all, he approaches each one of us with patience. No matter how strong or weak our faith may be at one particular moment or another moment, he never compares us to other people. He never says, "Father Tomasz, I wish your faith was as strong as someone else." He never does that. Because your faith journey is your faith journey, and mine is mine. And Jesus understands that, and he meets us where we are. And he respects the fact that our journeys are not the same, that our paths to faith are different. And again, that tells you one simple thing. In your faith journey, just be yourself. Never try to compare yourself to other people, because God does not. Your journey of faith is your journey of faith. The way it was for the first disciples, for Thomas, for Peter, for Mary Magdalene, for John. And I find that this is a powerful Easter reminder for all of us, no matter where we are on that journey.